We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. We're gathered here today for our for our weekly gathering, and appreciate you being here with us. I got now my dear sister Connie is going to read for us, and she is going to read from the transcript of one of Regina's early teachings. Regina has created an early teachings playlist that is on YouTube. In that playlist, she shares the meat of her early teachings, and so the one we're going to hear this morning is called "The Right Use of Imagination," Part 1. I think it's number 22 on that playlist if you go to Awakening Together's YouTube channel. Nonetheless, my dear sister Connie Poole is going to read The Right Use of Imagination, Part 1. Connie?
Thanks, Jacquelyn. I love you. Imagination, Regina Akers, Part 1. All the things that are difficult for me to accept are coming up. So that's what I'm experiencing. I'm experiencing everything that's really difficult for me to accept as part of my lesson in learning acceptance. This is a very powerful message because it reminds me that I am the creator of that experience, and nothing that I experience right now would be here if I didn't will for it. The Son of God is not able to will against. We are always willing for something, whether we like the result or not, but we are always willing for. We always feel grateful for something, and so we are experiencing either in the dark or in the light. I will admit that learning this pure acceptance and then having the things that are most difficult for me to accept come up, it's a challenge. One thing that is getting very clear in my mind is that if I am rejecting my current experience, no matter what it is, what I am rejecting is the idea that I am the creator of that experience, which means I'm still rejecting myself. And again, as Holy Spirit has been teaching me, whenever I reject myself, it's really because I'm judging myself. Whenever I judge myself, I am teaching myself that I am guilty and unworthy. Whenever I'm teaching myself that I am guilty and unworthy, then I am creating the experience of fear. The Holy Spirit is just really showing me step by step what I am doing to myself. This is really helpful because when I see that I am doing this to myself, then it starts giving me back my own power. I start ceasing to see myself as a victim. Even today, I did not have what I would call a good day. Today, it did not feel good. It felt like another ego attack. But what I was able to clearly see in the mind was that I chose the experience. Holy Spirit pointed my mind right back to the exact moment, literally, when I chose the experience. That is very, very powerful because when I see that I chose the experience and therefore I'm having the experience, I no longer see myself as victim. And that is taking my power back. As I begin to take my power back, as I begin to realize that I am the creator of every experience I have, and I create that experience through willing for it, I can start to pay more attention what I'm willing for. I can begin to change my mind. I begin to notice when my mind is willing for an experience that I don't truly want, and I can change my mind, let go of the idea, and begin to will for a different experience. Holy Spirit gives me what I consider more concrete tools to help me with this. One tool that Holy Spirit gave me was Holy Spirit showed me that in my mind, whenever you're willing for something, there's a picture of it or an idea of it in your mind. For example, if you are imagining coming on Pal Talk and teaching, and you're imagining that when you get into Pal Talk, you are going to be nervous, and you're imagining that you might be a little tongue-tied, and you're imagining that you might have trouble delivering your message, that is willing for that experience. So what Holy Spirit taught me is when you know you're willing for this experience that you don't really want, because you don't really want to go on into Pal Talk and be nervous. You don't really want to go into Pal Talk and be tongue-tied. You don't really want to go into Pal Talk and not be able to get your message across and not have the Holy Spirit flow through you. So when you notice that this is the image in your mind that you're willing for, in that moment, let go of that image and replace it with another. Instead, imagine yourself going into Pal Talk and being very relaxed. Imagine yourself going into Pal Talk and truly trusting the Holy Spirit. Imagine yourself going into Pal Talk and not even needing to know what you're going to say, that when you open your mouth, you'll feel the love in your heart and the Holy Spirit will just flow through you. And imagine yourself even being amazed when you listen to your own recording of you speaking, because you cannot believe what came through you. Take what you were imagining, which is what you do not want. Let go of that and replace it with another image that you do want. This is how the Holy Spirit is teaching me to will for what I do want instead of willing for what I do not want. This again is accepting that I am creator, accepting the power of my mind and the connection between the power of my mind and my experience is, but again, the flip side of remembering when I am in an experience that doesn't feel good, when I'm in an experience that doesn't seem to be what I really want, to remember that I am there because I willed for that. And accepting that is the first step in learning to will for it differently, because I'm accepting who I truly am instead of rejecting who I truly am. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Yeah, beautifully read. Thank you. And sometimes those transcripts can be difficult to read because the spoken word is so much different than, if we were writing for readers to read it. So thank you for making the adjustments you need to make in that regard, Connie. That's sweet. Okay, so let's talk about the reading. Personally, the first part of the audio recording, it was Laurent speaking, and Laurent says that the message, he says, reminds me that I'm the creator of that experience, and nothing that I experience right now would be here if I didn't will for it. Nothing that I experience right now would be here if I didn't will for it. So we're talking about responsibility for sight. And this is a difficult subject because many of us go, I'm not responsible for that. Don't blame that on me, right? But as we'll see as we go through this message, it's really accepting that responsibility. And we're not talking about blame. We're talking about responsibility. it's only by accepting that responsibility that we're having the experience that we willed for that allows us to change what we will for, to will for differently, to use imagination in the right way, because we are always willing for something. So what we're learning to do, hopefully, and if you weren't learning to do it before today, let's start doing it today. What we're learning to do is to become conscious creators. Again, we are always willing for something. What are you willing for? You can see what you're willing for by looking at the experience that you're having. If we call it an article, you'll forgive me, but the article says, Regina says, if I am rejecting my current experience, what I am also rejecting is the idea that I'm the creator of that experience. So again, we just talked about how important it is to really embrace the fact that we are creating our experience, so that we can become conscious creators and create differently. There's another point here to be made, however, and Regina's making that point here. If I'm rejecting my current experience, what I'm also rejecting is the idea that I am the creator of that experience. Thus, I'm rejecting myself. When I reject myself, I'm judging myself. When I'm judging myself, I'm teaching myself that I'm guilty and unworthy. When I teach myself guilt and unworthiness, I create the experience of fear. And so by rejecting that I am the creator of this experience, I am willing to continue to live in an experience of fear. I'm willing to continue living in an experience of unworthiness. But when I see what I'm doing to myself, as Regina stated, when I see what I'm doing myself, that gives me back my power. That enables me to quit seeing myself as a victim. And you know, when we say victim, it's not always, oh, woe is me victim. It's like something's being done to me, right? It's placing the cause of my experience outside of myself, right? I'm a victim of circumstance. I'm a victim of my brothers. I'm a victim of life. That's what we, that seems to be the default position. That's the ego position. But if I see that I am doing this, I am able to take back my creative power. I am able to become a conscious creator. As Regina pointed out, noticing what I'm choosing to experience helps me to see when and how I make the choice for an experience of fear or suffering. And we've talked often here, especially since we met Leo Gura, we talk often here about how awareness alone is curative. And once we make the intention to notice, once we give our willingness to notice that we are creating our experience, and Regina talks about it in this article in terms of Holy Spirit, right? But the whole universe rushes in to show us what it is we have willed to see. So noticing what I'm choosing to experience helps me to see when and how I make the choice for an experience of fear or for an experience of suffering or conflict or competition or whatever it is. And noticing every choice, right? Making this decision that I want to see the choices that I'm making. Noticing every choice helps me remember I am the creator of the experience, and I create that experience through willing for it. So as I start paying attention to what I'm willing for, I start creating the opportunity to change my mind, to change what I'm willing for. Regina said, I begin to notice when my mind is willing for an experience that I don't truly want, and I can change my mind, let go of that idea, and begin to will for a different experience. And why this article is called, this teaching is called The Right Use of Imagination, is that Regina said that Holy Spirit taught her, she said, you know, that whenever you're willing for something, there's an image of something, that something in your mind. So whenever you're willing for something, there's an image of that something in your mind. You know, you see yourself being nervous speaking on Pal Talk, right? You see yourself being tongue-tied. You know, it's interesting because I've talked to several people, and Sina's really good at it. Sina's great. She gets this imagery, man, it is clear, and then she, you know, does whatever, and she hands it to Holy Spirit. It's awesome. Regina, I remember hearing Regina's early teachings. She, you know, when she was giving away whatever thought she didn't want to have or whatever, she would tie it up in a, you know, she would picture herself wrapping the present and hand it to, I mean, it's lovely. I don't see in pictures, right? I just don't see in pictures that way. Nonetheless, I am seeing an image in my mind. If I see myself going into, not Pal Talk, that was a long, long time ago, Zoom, and being tongue-tied and being nervous. And, you know, I mean, so I am picturing these things in the way that I picture them. And I just noticed that I wanted to notice the contrast because I know not everybody sees in actual pictures. Nonetheless, we do have an image. We have a feel for what that's going to look like, right? So we're creating this thing, even if we can't see an outline of ourselves, right? If we don't see a little figure, we are creating this. We have an image in our mind. So whenever you're willing for something, there's an image of that something in your mind. And then Holy Spirit says to notice the image and replace that with another one instead. This is the right use of imagination. What I have noticed is, well, I don't get the images. I get a lot of the verbal stuff because I'll go, well, you know, we're getting ready to have that meeting. Boy, that's going to be tough. Right. So so now that I have turned my attention to what's going on here, turned my attention to my desire to be a conscious creator, I'm hearing how I'm creating the experiences that I don't want, how I'm willing for the experiences that I don't want. The other thing that I have noticed, and I will want to talk about this more, I don't know how this is going to come in, but I have been imagining, I see how I'm imagining the need for self-protection. Well, they're going to want me to, you know, and I'm not going to do that. In fact, a friend and I'm looking at some manufactured homes because I think that's the way I'm going to go instead of building a house from the ground up. But at any rate, we went on a visit the other day, and after it was over, I'm like, man, that was weird. What was that all about? You know, we went in there and we sat in the office. We go in the guy's office, and I'm like, you know, we're just here to look. And so this whole meeting, I was trying to, and of course, this is in hindsight, I was trying to take control from this guy, right? He's trying to sell me something. I'm not going to have it, but could you try and sell me something? I mean, just a bizarre situation. Afterwards, I said, why was that so weird? And I really had to think about how I willed for that kind of confrontational experience. It didn't have to be that kind of experience. I mean, it was fine, but I willed for that experience, and I willed for that experience by imagining the need for self-protection. And so I see that in this experience quite a lot. I didn't see it until I started, until I gave my willingness to see how I was creating the experiences that I'm having. Of course, again, let me just remind you, you can't get there if you hear responsibility for sight or looking to see how I'm willing for this experience, if you hear that makes me guilty, right? It's just an innocent use of the power that we are, right? There's nothing wrong in that. But if you want a different experience, it's time to take responsibility for sight so that you can become a conscious creator and will for the experiences that you want. Regina said that when she said the first step in learning to will for differently is accepting that when I'm in an experience that doesn't seem to be what I really want, I am there because I willed for that. It may take some practice. It's certainly taken practice for me. Shauna says a lot. Yeah. Yeah. I was telling my sister Debbie yesterday at lunch about, when I make up the schedule for the ministers who will give the Sunday homilies. I do it a quarter at a time, 3 months at a time. And so I kind of got a late start on January, February, March. And I'm like, oh my goodness, who is going to do January the 8th, our first day? And fortunately for me, we weren't doing January the 1st. So that gave me a little bit of breathing room. But who's going to do January the 8th? And boom, it came in so clearly. You are. And it said, and the title is Great Expectations. I'm like, oh, great. So I'm telling Debbie about this yesterday. I'm like, oh, great. And Debbie's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. She said, maybe. She said it was fabulous. You asked who's going to give the first homily. You got the answer. And without even asking, you got the title. What that could have signaled to you was that you would have everything that you needed to give the homily, right? It was just all be provided. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. But I'm willing to see that. I'm willing to see that that is not the experience that I was willing for. I was willing for, oh my God, this could be just a whole thing. I'm going to go in there and be tongue-tied, blah, 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 just like, oh, great, right? Oh, great. So it's really lovely to see it. You got to giggle, right? When you become willing to become a conscious creator, the whole universe rushes in to show you the choices that you're making, what you're willing for. So as I accept responsibility for sight, I become a conscious creator. As a conscious creator, I am then able to will for perfect happiness. This is my true will, right? The will for perfect happiness. I'm not willing for specifics. I'm not going, okay, and now I want $1,000. Oh, okay, $1 million, right? You're going to aim high, aim high. But no, we're not talking about specifics. What I'm doing differently, what I'm willing for, what I'm doing differently is I am trusting in a benevolent universe. I'm trusting in a benevolent universe. Because what was I before when I was willing for an experience I didn't want? Oh, that's going to be awful. Oh, that's going to be hard. Oh, that's what the practice has been. Unconscious practice of being a creator has been for me. So now if I'm going to will for something different, I do that by trusting. I trust that everything is exactly as it should be. I trust that there's a benevolent universe, that there's a divine plan, that I trust in a benevolent universe. I trust in my brothers. And by the way, hopefully we'll find out here that trusting in my brothers is trusting in a benevolent universe. What I do know is that perfect happiness can only be had by trusting in my power to create. That is the truth of what I am. This is the acknowledgement that peace is mine when I will for it. Peace is mine when I will for it. I'm teaching myself that if I find myself having a different experience, an experience other than peace, I need merely will for differently. Again, I learned to will for differently by saying where, when, and how I willed for this experience. I'm teaching myself. This is becoming a conscious creator. I want to read you a little excerpt here from that Connie didn't read. The right use of imagination had 3 parts. I want to read you a little excerpt from the right use of imagination part 2. Regina said, when I begin to recognize that I will for that, I can then accept the current circumstance. Accept accept that it is exactly what I wanted. It is exactly what I willed for. That's exactly why I'm experiencing it, and then begin to will differently. Regina says, and in my mind, the way that I will for differently is to trust every moment and to trust every future moment. Trust that exactly what I'm doing right now is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And all of the other things that seem to need to be done, I will be guided to do those things in exactly the right moment. To trust that every single moment is perfect. She says, and as I begin to put my mind there, and I begin to trust instead of worry. Trust is a perfect antidote to fear. As I move into trust, then, through my creatorship, through my willing for a different experience, I will begin to have that different experience. So in order to consciously create the experience of peace, the experience of perfect happiness, I must begin to have a harmonious relationship with life rather than one where I must always be on guard, which is, listen, it was shocking to me once I began to see it. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's all. Oh, this is going to be great. Oh, how's that going to go? I mean, I didn't know I was doing that. And you might not be able to tell it on the surface, you know, but it appears that that is what I was doing. But again, in order to consciously create, to experience an to consciously create an experience of peace, to consciously create the experience of perfect happiness, I must begin to have a harmonious relationship with life, rather than one where I must always be on guard. I must begin to imagine a world where I can trust. And I do that by trusting that my brothers are giving me exactly what I willed for. I trust that what I will for is the experience that I will have. I trust that there's no one or no thing that can will otherwise, that can thwart my will by willing differently, right? There's only one thing going on here. There's only one thing going on here. There are no separate others who oppose me. Now, I want to read you a little excerpt from another of one of these early teachings. And let me say, gosh, am I honored and blessed to be going through these early teachings with you all in the sanctuaries on Tuesdays. Just so much is coming through. But let me quote to you from another one. This one is called "What You Thought Did Not Occur." So Regina says, part 2. Regina says, "What Holy Spirit taught me." In the message on attack, and hopefully, and you all may remember that message on attack, but we're going to give you the broad outlines here. What Holy Spirit taught me in the message on attack is reminding me that I am the creator, that I am the one that creates all of my experience. And what Holy Spirit taught me is that if I focus on attack thoughts in my mind, whether my attack thoughts seem to be attacking me, whether my attack thoughts seem to be attacking you, or whether I seem to perceive people attacking each other, That if I have attack thoughts in my mind, in effect, what I'm doing is willing for the perception of attack. I am literally asking, I'm literally praying for the perception of attack. Whatever my mind is focused on, I'm saying that is the experience I want to have. Regina says what's actually happening is that my brother is just showing up, answering my own prayer. I was asking for the perception of attack, and my brother, out of pure love, which literally means in this case, pure oneness, my brother's now showing up and giving me exactly what I willed for, exactly what I prayed for. So my brother's not attacking me. What I thought my brother did to me is not what he did. My brother is answering my prayer. My brother is giving me what I willed for. My brother is assisting me in the experience that I wanted. It is all love. My brother did not do to me what I thought he did. All he did was love me. She says, and this is where that definition comes from, which we quote so often. It was in that message where Holy Spirit told me, love is spirit, giving to spirit, through spirit, that which spirit requests. So if my mind is focused on attack thoughts and someone shows up and seems to attack me, that is spirit giving to spirit, through spirit, that which I requested, that which I willed for. He's giving me an experience that I wanted. It's the experience of separation. It's the experience of attack. But the reality is it came to us through our oneness, and it is love. So if I don't trust my brother, number one, I'm denying my own creative power. And I am affirming separation and insisting on something other than the truth. The truth is that we're one being, and we move and give and be as one being. There's only one thing going on here. That's why there's no such thing as attack or competition. What I focus my attention on is what I experience. Because there's only one thing going on here. My brothers help me have the experience I have requested through my believing attention. So when I say, oh, yeah, that's going to be difficult, well, guess what? It will be. And y'all going to help me to make sure that that happens that way. So what I'm encouraging us all to do is to trade those poor expectations for great ones, for right-minded expectations, the right-minded use of imagination. We can imagine ourselves as successful in our surrender, in our spiritual practices, right? You know, if I think, oh, I'm too busy for spiritual practice, for example, I can imagine the space opening up so that I have time for spiritual practice, right? That we are creators. We are creating that experience. I can imagine that I live in a harmonious relationship, which I do. And you're like, why would you have to imagine that? Because I've been imagining the opposite. And I want to share with you a personal experience because I want to share for a moment about, I kept having this come up. It's like this idea of being fiercely independent. You know, for example, I don't want to ride with anybody to any group thing because what if I want to leave, right? I can't just go and get in my car if they drove. I mean, just little things like that all over the place. No, I'll do it myself. No, don't tell me how to do that. Don't tell me which guy to go, which camper to go, which house to go see first, right? I mean, I want to do it my way, right? So there's just the number of things that have come up and just shown me this It feels like a fundamental building block of this personality to be fiercely independent. And so I asked Inner Wisdom about this. Inner Wisdom said, remember that you are not in charge. Your self-will is this very desire to be fiercely independent. You believe that if you give up this self-will, you will be trampled. When you feel you are fighting someone else for control, you are fighting for your self-autonomy. I'm fighting for it. It's crazy. When you feel you're fighting someone else for control, you're fighting for your self-autonomy. The antidote is surrender. And I'm like, okay, wait. Wait. Does this include surrender to those around me? I can get on board with surrender to a higher power, God, the universe, your will, not mine, etc. But I absolutely will not surrender to the ideas, plans, greed of others. I see in this that I do not trust others. I see that embedded in this issue is a belief in competition and annihilation. What would you share with me about this? Inner Wisdom said, you may keep your notions of autonomy, defense, competition, superiority, but only at the expense of knowledge. If what you desire is true knowledge, your surrender must expand to trust your brothers. Your brothers show up the way you expect them to. Your brothers show up the way you expect them to. This is the perfect opportunity to exercise the right use of imagination. Imagine that you trust your brothers and that they likewise trust you. What might your interactions look like if this were true? I can tell you I would have had a different interaction at that mobile home play, that manufactured home place. But at any rate, imagine that you trust your brothers and that they likewise trust you. What might your interactions look like if this were true? Let I trust my brothers be your mantra, your aspiration, until we have fully resolved this obstacle. When you feel a bristle, remind yourself, I trust my brothers. When there seems something to lose, remind yourself, I trust my brothers. Have great expectations, and you will have your reward, their reward. Read it again. Have great expectations, and you will have their reward. We are being asked to be the conscious dreamer. We are being asked to remember that I'm the creator of my experience, and nothing that I experience right now would be here if I didn't will for it. And we're always willing for something. I must cease seeing myself as a victim at the mercy of others, at the mercy of life. I can will for a different experience. The right use of imagination is trust in the right-minded scenario, in my brothers, in the benevolence of the universe. The right use of imagination is trust. The right use of imagination is imagining a different posture towards life. Right? I mean, not surprisingly, and in tribute to my sister Connie, we're coming down here to column A and column B, right? It's like I can imagine that there's only one thing going on here, that there's a benevolent universe, that we all share the same will, or I can imagine that it's me against everybody else. I can imagine oneness, I can imagine separation. You're always imagining something. You're always willing for something. What do I want to imagine? So we're talking about using an imagination as a posture towards life. We're talking about stepping out of an unhelpful way of being into a helpful way of being. For me, I'm specifically talking about stepping into a way of being that is open, that is trusting. And I want to leave you with this reading from Mark chapter 15 that my 500 days group that I do with my family recently looked at. It's from Mark chapter 15, and it's talking about, excuse me, to set the scene, it's talking about the crucifixion and Jesus' experience of the crucifixion. And these are, this is Mark chapter 15, I believe it's verses 33 through 41. NTI says, the perspective of the crucifixion through the lens of the unhealed mind is a perspective of pain and suffering. The unhealed Son of God cannot imagine the blessings that are upon him, and so he must be taught. Through Jesus' perspective of the event of the crucifixion and of his seeming death, Jesus, excuse me, I'll read it to you in a minute. Through Jesus' perspective of the event of the crucifixion and of his seeming death, Jesus is a symbol of both teacher and learner, that all may learn the truth. The perspective of the unhealed mind is that of darkness and of being forsaken or cut off from the mercy of God. The perspective of the healed mind is the joy of knowing itself as one with God, having never been separate and never able to be separate. The perspective of the unhealed mind is that of bodies, of suffering, of judgment, and of guilt. The perspective of the healed mind is that of peace and gratitude for knowing beyond all possible doubt that illusions are illusions, and only the truth is true forever and always. The perspective of the unhealed mind is that of separateness and specialness and of being apart, fiercely independent. The perspective of the healed mind is completion and wholly joyous. And those aren't specific now to the crucifixion, right? Those are the perspectives of the unhealed mind and the perspective of the healed mind. I encourage you to be willing to see that you're always willing for something and to learn to become the conscious creator. Thank you for the opportunity to share this with you today. Very grateful. Sana? That was a fun song. That came in, again, Debbie was right at lunch. Everything I needed was right here. Yeah, when I began to see it in that light. And I love that song. To follow my, I guess I'll follow my feet. It's kind of like, I guess I'll follow my heart there, I think, in that song. But anyway, sweet. Okay, it's your turn. What do y'all want to say? Connie?
Thank you, Jacquelyn. Thank you for this powerful message. When you were given the example of the crucifixion and Jesus, the enlightened mind's perspective of it, it reminded me of what my former perspective of surrender was. That the unenlightened mind, the controlling the distrust, and saying, I'm going to surrender my mind, and it, it totally misses the point. The point being that I'm already one with the glorious mind of divinity, of all there is. And and for me to look at it from a perspective of I'm surrendering to something separate from myself, just totally missed the point. It totally missed the point of benevolence. It totally missed the point of oneness. It totally missed the point of trust. I was totally in column B, and I know without a doubt there's only a column A, and column B will only show me that I'm there and that I don't want to be there. So thank you for your homily today. It was revelatory.
Sweet. Thank you, Connie. Thank you for your reading. And thank you for being you. Who else would like to share? Sean, I knew you were going to share. I was just waiting to see how long it took you to raise your hand.
Oh, you're so funny. Thank you so much. This was just perfect for what I needed to hear. And the way it flowed through you just resonated and landed so deeply. And there's so much I could say, but the main thing that I got out of this is, yes, I answer your call to be willing, to see that I am always willing for something. And what do I choose now? And for me, I immediately heard the mind say, oh, that's way too much. You can't pay attention to all that stuff. You can't be looking down the road and choosing now. It's now. What am I choosing right now? Can I become more aware? As you said, can I become more aware of the experience I am willing for? Can I look deeply into that unconscious desires and bring them out into the light? And I love how you emphasize it's not about blame and judgment. It's celebrating that we can actually see the choices we're making, that we can actually choose again. Oh my God, the power that we are and the love that we are given through these choices is just amazing. And I'll probably talk more, but that's it for now. Thank you. I love you.
I love you. Thank you, Shauna. Sweet share. Thank you. Ruby.
I'm doing the inner Ramana, and I'm doing it very slowly. So, I'm still in message 3, and I think I've been doing it for, like a month. Your message was awesome for me. But I'm going to just share briefly what you said at the last message. When you were giving your message, you said, you're not in control. No, you're not in charge. I'm just giving you tidbits. It said, surrender is what you have to do, what I have to do. And trust others. Trust my brother. I mean, everything that I just would love for you to, I'm going to listen to that again. Everything in that message was just perfect for me. So thank you very much. It was very clear and to the point. So thank you, Jacquelyn.
Thank you, sweet Ruby. That's sweet. Thank you. Yeah. And Regina.
Well, I have a little bit of a story to tell. Should we wait and do it in the sharing that happens after? There's only a minute left.
Go right ahead, Regina. We got the okay from Sana, right?
Yeah, you should go for it.
Okay, well, today while I was listening, I was walking Ellie. I was listening with earbuds on. And we have this huge field out here by our house. And Ellie and I were walking in that field. And I saw a coyote, which happens from time to time. And I didn't think anything of it because, when the coyotes see us, they run us. So we kept walking towards it, and it did kind of go off a little bit, but then it stopped. It turned around and it started walking towards us, which a coyote has never done before. I'm listening to Jacquelyn talking about the right use of imagination. And so I noticed right away that the image that came into the mind was of him attacking us, right? And so I knew there was what I would call a sense of urgency. I never actually felt fear. I felt a sense of urgency. I felt a sense of urgency to replace that image immediately with an image of knowing exactly what to do. I knew that being safe was too specific, although of course I wanted to be safe, but I knew that being safe was too specific, that it needed to be less specific than that, So I replaced it with an image of knowing exactly what to do. And so Ellie and I turned around and we started walking, and I would look, and he was definitely following us. He was staying the same distance. He wasn't getting closer, but he was clearly following us. And so there's a high school nearby. So what I knew was just to start walking towards the high school. So we start walking towards the high school. He continues to follow us. I'm listening to Jacquelyn. It's so funny. Just before we get to the high school, I find this. And this shined. I mean, it's a dirty ball, but it shined like it was being highlighted. It's a lacrosse ball, which is very hard. It's almost like having a big 8-ball. And I picked that up and I immediately felt safer, which is funny because I don't know that I actually was, but it gave me more confidence having this with me. And so we continued to walk towards the high school. We entered the pathway to the high school, which is now surrounded by ball fields and stuff. And he continued to follow us. There was this thought that maybe, when we got into the buildings, he would, that he would not feel safe, but he continued to follow us. And so we walked into the high school area, and there's the football field with the track. And so we started into the football field, and we got to a section. I saw that there was an 8-foot gate open. So she and I went in and closed the gate behind us and went down to the track. And there was even somebody down there practicing hurdles. So then I really started to feel much safer. We're inside a fenced area. There's someone else present. And I called Ron and asked him to come pick us up there. I didn't want to walk back home. And so obviously the end of the story is that we're here. But the reason I wanted to share was because I noticed, here I am listening to this while this is happening. And I noticed immediately the image of being attacked, right? And it was a possibility, don't get me wrong. I mean, he was definitely tracking us. But I knew, like I said, I had that sense of urgency that I needed to replace it immediately. And then there was also this intuition that replacing it with being safe was not right. And what I can see now that I didn't see then is that if I had replaced it with the image of being safe, that's an attachment to outcome that would have necessarily invoked fear. What if that outcome doesn't happen? So the image that it was replaced with was general. And this is the point I want to make. General, just knowing what to do, right? It was very general. And then the knowing what to do happened. In fact, I consider this ball a bit of a miracle, even though I never needed to use it. If I could show you how it shined, it just shined. And as soon as I picked it up, I felt even more confident. So I never had to use it, but somehow it was helpful anyway, right? And then, like I said, everything, knowing what to do, walking into the high school. I've walked into that high school a number of times. I've never noticed that gate. I've walked through it, but never noticed it. Of course, I never needed a gate to close before, right? And this time I noticed it, and I was able to close the gate. And I don't know, I just thought it was appropriate to come and share the story. So thank you for letting me share. And Jacquelyn, wonderful talk. It was great listening to you while having this experience.
Glad I could be there for you, Regina. That's an amazing story. That's a beautiful demonstration. Thank you so much, Regina. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. I really appreciate you making that point. Again, it's not about specifics. It's about that posture. It's less than specific. And I hadn't. What you said came in for you there. is that attachment to an outcome in itself invokes fear. That's really helpful in learning to become a conscious creator. So thank you very, very much. And Sana, I'll turn this back over to you so you can wrap it up. Thank you.
Been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.